Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here, and I'm going to bring you a gear review today. This is my Cold Steel Code 4. I had it in another video, but didn't make a video specifically about it. And this knife definitely deserves a video. And here's why. For those of you who carry knives, you know there's a thought process that you have to go through. Am I going to carry a knife that's big enough and strong enough to do all the things that I want to do? Or am I going to carry a knife that's lighter and maybe more convenient, but I'm just going to be a little bit careful with what I use it for. I can't push it too hard because of its slimness, its lightness. And so we normally end up making a trade-off. We carry a knife that, we feel like is big enough and strong enough, but which maybe the handle is a little small, or maybe the blade is not as thick, or the lockup is not as strong as we'd like to be confident in every situation. If, on the other hand, we choose a bigger knife, let's say a Cold Steel Recon 1 or an Espada or Lawman or something like that, boy, we get a zero tolerance, pretty much any zero tolerance. We get this big, strong Hinder XM18, big, strong, beefy knife that we have no hesitation with doing just about anything with. It's a real hunk of steel, and you just know it's going to be awesome. But putting that thing in your pocket and carrying it around, boy, you've got it all day long. So there's the trade-off. Do I take a big, fully capable knife, or do I take a smaller knife that maybe isn't as capable, but it's much more convenient to have in my pocket? Well, I'm going to suggest that the Cold Steel Code 4 fits perfectly in this middle ground where you've got a big knife. So here's my open hand. I can't fit it on the screen. And here's the Code 4. You can see it's longer than my hand by a significant amount. It's a big knife, probably about 8 inches long. Yet, when you fold it down and put it in your pocket, it's super light, super thin, and doesn't impact your day-to-day at all. You never know you've got it until you pull it out and flip it open, and then you go, wow, I've got this awesome knife. So the Cold Steel Code 4 seems to me does a great job of hitting this balance between size and weight and strength and capability. And really you get the best of all worlds. And so I've got to say, I've carried this knife now for a while and am impressed with it more every day that I carry it. Let's get into some of the things that I want to talk about specifically. As I said, this is not going to be technical. So the looks are one of the things that I specifically want to address. This knife is just a classic, smooth, simple design that just looks great. And it almost has the look of a gentleman's folder because of the smooth aluminum scales, and they have sort of almost a titanium nitride look to them. They're not, they're aluminum. And so, except for size, which is maybe a little big for what we normally call a gentleman's folder, it really has the look and feel of a sophisticated, classy knife, and yet it's got all the functionality of that bushcraft, beat on, do whatever you can think of to do with it knife. And so it's a great balance that way, but I think the look is really classy and really smooth. The feel of the knife in hand is outstanding. And the other day I was doing some cutting tasks on some flooring that I was working on, and as I was cutting, I was thinking to myself, man, if I had my Code 4, this would be so much easier because I can really get some purchase and I can really do some work with that knife. Now, I didn't have it, but it makes a perfect story to fit into this video. So now I'm kind of glad that I didn't. Anyway, the feel, the ergonomics of this knife are great. The balance is outstanding. The size and shape, although it's a thin handle, it's big enough this way that you can really get a hold of it. And I don't feel any problem with the grippiness of this knife and getting some real work done with it, even though I know Nut and Fancy had some questions about that in terms of a tactical blade. I don't carry a blade to be a tactical blade anyway, but I don't have any hesitation about being able to hold on to this knife for any application that you could think of. Very comfortable. You could use it for long periods of time. You're not going to get any major hot spots. At least I haven't in the few weeks that I've been carrying it. Lockup is outstanding. It's a Trident lock. So it's a lock back. I know most of you who know anything about knives are familiar with the Trident lock. For those of you who aren't, go watch some of those insane Cold Steel videos where they just beat the snot out knives that have the triad lock, and they hold up really, really well. One thing you do need to know is that when this thing is deployed, it is locked. It's no blade play of any kind, and it's really strong. In fact, so strong that it's a little uncomfortable to push down and get that to release. So much so that I often find myself using like that bony portion of my thumb rather than the soft portion at the end. So lockup is really strong, but that you need to know that back lock, it takes some effort to release. You really got to push on it. And so those are the main things I want to talk about. The last note that needs to be made is cost. When I saw this knife for the first time in a catalog and then watched it on a couple of reviews, I thought that thing is going to be an expensive knife. That'll be the most expensive knife that Cold Steel makes. Turns out it's not at all. It's cheaper than your Lawmans and Espadas and Voyagers and Recons. And that's surprising. Now, I'm in Canada, so it probably runs about $75. But, I did check some American websites. It's like $55 in the States. You guys are very fortunate. And for my Canadian watchers, and I know most of you guys will be Canadian, I know there's some politics involved in this, but I'd recommend waiting till you go down to the States and pick it up in a store down there. Don't do the Bass Pro thing, because you won't get that much of a break on price then. But extremely affordable. I couldn't believe how much I paid for this knife, and I was convinced that it was just going to be so expensive, but that was not the case at all. So if you're a person that is interested in carrying a knife, you've got to put this thing on your short list. It's a little big, I know, for some people and for some applications. You may not want to open it in certain settings because of that size. But I'm going to say for 85% of the population who are going to be in a situation where no one's going to care if they open a knife in the office. And this doesn't look martial at all. It doesn't look tactical or tactical, as many people are fond of saying, and doesn't have that look to it. It just looks like a utilitarian tool, which is what it is, and it's a great one. So thumbs up to the Cold Steel Code 4. I would have paid another $20 for this knife. Cold Steel, if you're ever watching this, don't add $20 to the price. It's a fantastic knife at a really good price. Highly, highly recommended. I may even check this knife out in a couple of other blade shapes just because it's so great. I love it so much. So that's the Cold Steel Code 4. Give you one last look at the knife, and I'm going to sign off. Don't look for any editing, by the way, in this video. My editing software is messed up, so it's just going to be what you see is what you get. Talk to you later.